Welcome to the Jobs Fucked podcast, a place where we rant about the emergency services, public services and all the joy that they bring, telling your stories, your horror stories and the hilarity of the jobs what you do. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to this elsewhere, my name is Jay Dartmoor, I'm an ex-police officer and a best-selling author. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow for more. If you're someone who works in the emergency services or you just have some funny accolades about the work what you do, knowing that you're not alone. The reason why I've started this is because the amount of people that message me about their work, nurses, firefighters, police officers, shift workers, carers, teachers, anyone like that who has to work with the fucking public in some kind of capacity. You always have some kind of funny accolades. So this podcast is designed to, shed a bit of light on your day, shed a bit of light on your work, and mainly to know that you're not alone. One thing I get a lot is when they talk about things like, fucking hell, I thought it was just me. No, trust me, it is not just you. So what we're gonna do is I'll put out a little bit of a call on social media for some funny stories or accolades, and you have not disappointed. So we have one here from Vanessa, and she's asked to stay anonymous. Now I just need to try and find it. I should probably keep hold of these, but I can't find it. Is it this one? Let me have a listen.
I still think the funniest thing was when the senior management basically passed down that no one was allowed to say over the air that they didn't have keys to the control room when they were trying to send us to jobs when we couldn't go because we had no keys. And so we weren't allowed to say it, and that the expectation was that we get a bus to...
Sorry, you're telling me that the senior management turned around to you and said, you're not allowed to say you don't have keys, as in there are no cars available, to go and respond to emergency incidents. And their solution was to say, get a bus. Like, someone rings up the police and goes, hi, yeah, I called the police on 999, like, where are they? Oh yeah, sorry, they're stuck in traffic because there's roadworks, because the number 10 didn't show up, so they had to wait for the number 12 because the driver was off sick that day. And there was an old dear who got on the bus and decided that they wanted to pay in pennies and wanted to have a chat with the bus driver. But yeah, we'll be there as quick as possible. Fucking hell, that's insane. There's more to the voice now, actually. Let's just have another listen.
And priorities and stuff like that. And I was like, fuck those. I'm not bloody getting a bus to a domestic. They can piss off.
Imagine getting a bus to a domestic incident. How do you transport them to custody? Do you have to wait with them at the bus stop and hope what if they don't have the money for the fare? Oh, he's not coming on. Why? You've not got £3 for the fare. You've taken the piss. They'll be telling you to get an Uber next.
I got a bus to court years ago, but that's understandable, isn't it? Because you don't need a car, really. But that was even weird then, because the defendant was on the bloody bus with me, talking, so...
No. So, you look familiar, you. Have I met you before? Yeah, mate, I've locked you up. Yeah, you know the reason why you're going to court? Yeah, that's me. Sorry. I've heard of PCSOs getting a bus, but not a cop, not a bobby.
I'm trying to think of other funny things that I'm kind of coming across at the moment. But yeah, no, being accused of being racist because I was just basically saying about how wrong it is that, some men are attacking women and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so you're accused of racism because men were attacking women. Now, one would presume that in order for racism to be thrown in there, that you may have been speaking about migrants. And I've actually been having a chat recently about this with a lady from the Women's Safety Initiative, who that is a big issue with what they want to tackle. But for a colleague to accuse you of racism because you're saying that you don't want people from other countries coming and assaulting women? Is it a case of like, surely from their perspective they're going, well, you can't tar them all with the same brush? And I'm pretty sure that wasn't what you would have said. I'm pretty sure you'd have gone, there are people from other countries coming here and sexually assaulting women, which is actually happening. Now, here's the thing with that issue, okay? So when we talk about the grooming gangs and everything else, the reason why the police ignored it and the social services ignored it and the services ignored it was because they didn't want to be branded as racist. So therefore the problem was allowed to continue. But now what you're saying is that your colleague is accusing you of racism because you're highlighting the issue. So surely they're still replicating and continuing the same issue which caused it to happen in the first place. If we can't talk about something which is a severe issue and a massive issue towards safety and women's safety in particular, then the problem is going to continue. Anyway.
Accused of that by probably a white woman is a bit really strange, but anyway, woke generation. But I'm going to think of some other things. At the moment, I've got 2 other colleagues that I know of. One's quit, but she's going off sick because the job's affected her mood that much. And she's the one she's a student officer, so she's the one where the sergeant, learning development or whatever you call them, said she's got to carry on doing her portfolio, and I said tell them to shove it up their assholes.
So basically the job have made someone feel absolutely fucking terrible to the point where they've gone, you know what, I can't really do this anymore, I'm actually going to quit. And then the job's response is, yeah, but you know that training portfolio which you have to do, yeah, we still want you to do that before you go off, before you leave. Like, absolutely, every time was shoved up their ass. Like, why would I do that? Why would I fucking finish my portfolio for a job I'm not going to be in any longer? It makes no sense. Well, thank you very much for that insight, Vanessa. That was very, very kind. Very, very kind of you. We also have another voice note from someone who I'm going to refer to as Billy. Okay? So, let's go.
Also, another story. So, basically, I went to someone I knew in a block of flats on my old patch, and the call coming basically is a safe and well. It's basically, yeah, basically to like go and check he was all right, and he hadn't snuck.
So safe and wells can be they can be interesting because either you get there and everything's fine. I had it once where we did a safe and well. She was a social worker actually, and she'd been missing for a few days. This is funny. She'd been missing for a few days, and then the balloon went up. She was like high risk missing person. She's in the 20s, a professional and stuff. It was like, right, okay, fucking hell, we need to find out what happened to her. And it turned out the last time she'd been seen leaving a club in like Manchester or Liverpool, something like that, with some unknown person. So we're like, who the hell's this guy? So we're emailing Greater Manchester Police saying we need that footage, we're going to put it through facial recognition and all the rest of it. As we're doing all that, the lady returns home. Now, she was last seen on a Friday, and this was like, I think, the Monday. So like, she's not turned up for work either. Anyway, I went to see her, and she looked absolutely knackered. She looked fine. And I said to her, like, is everything all right? What's happened? And she said, yeah, basically what happened was I went out on Friday, I met a guy, we then left together, and I went back to his house. And I've spent the last 3 days off my tits on cocaine, drinking a fuck ton of booze, and having repeated sex with him and his 4 housemates. So basically, this girl's just been away and just had a train ran on her. Ah, well, she was in the 20s, she can do what she like. And she turned around and said, I'm just a bit tired. I was like, I believe you. I think she offered to shake my hand as well, but I was like, nah, I've got a good idea where it's been. So safe and wells can be all or nothing sometimes.
So I've gone to the flat block, knocked on his door, put my body cam on, and I was like, what the fuck, like, and I could smell like a horrible smell for the letterbox. I thought, fuck's sake, this ain't looking good. No. Open the letterbox, I'm shouting through it, banging the door again, gone back to the letterbox. He's opened the door while I'm on my knees, the letterbox with his dressing gown on and nothing else underneath. So I had a bit of a giggle with him going, I thought you was fucking dead basically, and yet you've opened the door, and I swear probably a few inches away from my face. He's bollocks and that, so brilliant. I thought, yeah, that would have been a bit awkward for the fucking record, wouldn't it? But so yeah, keep that one on. Have a giggle at that at my expense.
So you went there with the intention of making sure somebody was okay. You thought that you would be potentially finding a dead body, and instead you got a face full of dick and balls. Join the police, he said. It'll be fun, he said. So I also got another message from somebody who was who said, a guy I was crewed with quite often, They went to do a DVPN check. And if you don't know what a DVPN check is, it's basically somebody is accused of domestic violence. There's not enough evidence to prosecute them, but they give them what's called a DVPN, which is like a protection notice. Essentially like a restraining order. And what the police have to do is you have to go and check, making sure that the suspect, the perpetrator, isn't at that address. So they were done on that. So DVPN checks. She was a sex worker, okay? Searching the house, a massive suction dildo was on the chair. And the colleague of this person shit themselves and ended up parvering the lady. So they've gone in to do a check, has seen a deadly weapon on the chair, and then has then sprayed her with pepper spray. I can't imagine that went down very well, but that's fucking funny. I remember going to a domestic incident once, and we were sat there and we're chatting to this lady. And the amount of sex toys in that house were, like, I'm surprised she didn't open up her own shop. Because I remember walking through, and you know, like sometimes how people have like beads and drapes across doors? We walked through and it turns out they weren't beads and drapes, they were actually anal beads. This person had decided that putting them on the top of the door was the best way to have their, where to store their sex toys. I mean, talk about an air freshener, like, it was absolutely fine. But yeah, while we're talking to her, I'm just looking, and there's like, there's a 12-inch dildo, there's a massive dildo, there's a little one, there's a big one, there's this fucking vibrator. I'm like, my gosh. I mean, everyone's got a hobby, I suppose, but Jesus Christ. Okay, so, there's another voice note here from a lady who we'll refer to as Sandra. So let's have a listen to this.
Honestly, like, this lad, I walked in, he was wearing women's stockings, like some like garter belt, some like corset bra. It was so weird. And then he was like, I looked in the bathroom and there was another set of women's lingerie in there. So he'd obviously had his underwear before this had even happened, and then got into another set of women's lingerie, right? And then he stood there going, I've had a lot of poppers. I've gone a bit mad. I'm really sorry, like that. And I was like, what the fuck? But you look at him and he was like the Deansgate Lock's final boss, like. There's no making this shit up, like, honestly. I love where I work. I love the pay, but fuck me.
The Deansgate Lock's final boss. It's if, like, you know, your smackheads on the street corner, they're like your they're just your, you know, your little grunts and stuff. Like, you fight through them, and then you get into the big tower and you climb up the tower and you knock on the door, and then suddenly the boss appears and they're off their tits on poppers. I've had poppers before, actually. They were they make you feel, they make your head all funny, feel woozy. It's basically solvent abuse. Do not recommend. And when I say I had poppers, I was about 18. Before I started in the job, before anyone starts to ask. But yeah, so blow dressy women's lingerie. You know, again, you go for a concern for safety, and it can be something very, very fucking different. So, a few funny stories there. By all means, guys, send me your stories. I love hearing them. They make me laugh, and I'm more than happy to share them with you guys as well if you like that sort of stuff. And you don't have to be funny shit as well. If you've had a really bad day, you've had a really bad shift, by all means, send it in. Have a fucking rant. Sometimes we just need to get it off our chest sometimes, don't we? Which actually leads me to like the next thing I want to talk about, which is like staffing and quotas now, which you seem to get in the police. And when I was in the job, I was in the job for just under 10 years, and I'd say for about 7, 8 of those years, believe it or not, cops were left to make their own decisions. And, you know, with all the training and everything else, what you do, you're actually trusted to go to a job and to make the right decision and to deal with people properly. And then it came into like stats-based policing, which has got a fucking myriad of issues anyway. So it was stats-driven. And the person who told me this, well, there's quite a lot of people, unfortunately, who I've spoken to over the last few months, different cops and everything else, who have told me essentially like the stats thing is coming in thick and fast where they work. And this person had to get, in I think a month, 2 arrests, 2 traffic tickets, 2 sets of intel and a 20% outcome rate. Now, I'm not sure whether that was a month or that was in a set of shifts. But, I mean, the 2 arrests, okay. Well, most people then are probably going to go for the wanteds and the recalls to prison because they're an easy lockup. And then, but then you get people who, like, say, if you go to a domestic incident, they're then being told, okay, well, you have to lock up. Or even if you're not directly being told to lock up, it's in the back of your head thinking, well, there's potentially an offence here. I know that I'm going to get bollocked if I don't arrest. So then, like, that's where all the unethical side of policing comes in, the empathy, burnout, everything else. And as well, like the pressure on you to make an arrest. It's as if people are treated like statistics rather than actual human beings, which is something I've got a massive, massive gripe and a massive point of contention with. So we've got 2 arrests, 2 traffic tickets as well. That's brutal, that. Because for a traffic ticket, you kind of had to be in the right place at the right time. I maybe gave out, God, I got asked this the other day in the podcast, how many traffic tickets did I give out? I mean, I said like 20, but it's probably even less than that in the space of like fucking 10 years. I just never really gave out tickets. I didn't really like it. I gave a few out, but generally that's when someone would be an absolute arsehole with you. And normally, like, you maybe just let them off with a warning, or you'd say, listen, don't use your fucking phone when you're driving. Or, I mean, don't get me wrong, if someone's just texting, okay, maybe I might let them off, depending on the attitude test. But if someone was to pick up their phone and basically drive with the phone next to the ear, then they'd be like, right, you are absolutely taking a piss now. You are 100% getting a ticket. So them guys would get a ticket, but just genuinely, like, I remember one, and I still feel bad for it now. So it was a guy, he went through a red light, he probably just snagged it, but I don't know. For some reason I thought he's getting a ticket. Anyway, fully admitted to everything he'd done, and I ran him through PNC and stuff, and he was clear, he had no history or anything like that. And I said, oh, where you up to, where you going? And he said he had just come back from church, and he was a born-again Christian. So I'm like, great. So now if I give this guy a ticket, I'm going to fucking hell. So anyway, I ended up giving him a ticket. Still don't know why, still feel bad for it. Gave him a ticket, and I was with my colleague at the time, and my colleague had only been in the job like a few weeks. And that's probably why I gave him a ticket, to kind of show my colleague like what to do. But fuck me, I just showed him how to be an unempathetic arsehole, I think. So I give this guy a ticket, and his reply to caution at the end was, I said, have you got any reply to caution? He said, yes, God bless you and your family, sir, and thank you for everything what you do. And I was like, for fuck's sake, and my mate's face just like sank. It's like, oh no. So we got back in the car, and my mate just looked at me and was like, you're going to hell. You're absolutely going to hell. I was like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And the thing with tickets, like giving people tickets, is if you pull someone over, they're just normal people, aren't they? You know, I've been pulled over a few times in my time, and I pulled plenty of people over. Sometimes they're the biggest shitbag walking. Sometimes it's Mrs. Miggins who's on the way to Tesco's for a weekly shop. So you deal with all sorts of people all the time when it comes to traffic tickets. So to say you have to give out 2 tickets, it's a bit mean, that. I don't really like that. And then, of course, intelligence is very useful, which is good. I think PCSOs and that really need to do more with stuff like that, though, because cops are busy and cops are driving around doing all sorts of stuff. So intel can be quite hard to come across. So I think your beat officers and your PCSOs are meant to be like the eyes and ears of the community, aren't they? What I used to do, though, was when I would go to an incident, and I learned this off a lad who ended up going like sock you and like all like the county lines teams, was when he's talking to people at an ordinary incident, you just say what's going on around there, like what do we need to be aware of, and people would just give him information. So like, oh, I think the house round the corner's dealing, or we think this is happening, or there keeps being somebody dealing X, Y, and Z, or there's a car that drives around late at night. So, okay, so, you know, there's your intel, so that's fairly easy. The 20% outcome rate's a bit of a pain in the arse, though, because, well, what if there's no evidence? What if the person doesn't want to, you know, what if they don't want to support police action or whatever? So that's a bit of a funny one. But anyway, but a big thing what I always hear is there's just no fucking police officers on the streets now. Like, the cops are turning up, and I spoke to loads of sergeants, and they're saying, on paper, I've got 20 cops on a shift, but a lot of them are, well, that's on paper, and that's all the inspectors and the bosses care about. Well, on paper, you've got this many, when actually, when you look at the reality of it is, yes, I might have 20 on paper, but 5 of them are abstracted on courses, or they're on leave, or they're on sick. Then you're left with like 10 or 15. Then it's, I've got 2 student officers, so that brings it down again. So then you've got like 12. Then you've got constant obs. There's 2 people on constant obs and 1 person in the hospital. So that knocks you force down by about 5. So then you've got like 6 cops left. 1 major incident and you're absolutely wiping yourselves out. Or, 1 bad collision or something like that. You need some people to help with traffic management, and, if someone gets stuck at custody, or what if there's someone at custody that he's dealing with, you can very quick, that 20 officers on the face of it looks really, really good, but when you actually get into it, it's not the best. And the issue is as well, like, officer safety is a massive problem. I've always said this, all this stat bullshit just creates more demand on the officers, and then it's the officers that are not able to do the jobs properly because there's not enough of them. And I fucking hate it when you turn around and go, like the bosses will turn around and go, oh, well, we've got 10 jobs on the list, 20 jobs on the list, we all need resources. So what we're going to do is we're going to compromise officer safety, and we're going to tell everyone to go in single crewed, so everyone's got a car each, unless you need to get on the bus. Everyone's got a car each, and then you can get to more incidents then, which makes us look better. It's like, yeah, all right, but what about when everyone goes, when that officer goes to an incident, and it's a fucking domestic incident, and the bloke's still there, or the woman's still there, kicking off the tits on coke? Like, oh, well, they can just call for backup. Yeah, but don't take long to get stabbed, does it? Yeah, all right, backup's 10 minutes away or 5 minutes away on a blue light run. A shit ton can happen in 5 minutes, and it pisses me the fuck off when bosses who used to be bobbies are now interested in their own fucking pensions. I'm getting wound up now. Are interested in their own pensions and are interested in their own stats and their own promotions and licking the arse of the people above them, rather than actually looking after the cops who they're supposed to look after. Like, if a shift is failing and there's cops getting assaulted left, right and centre, and the cops are getting burnt out and everything else, then it's the management's problem. The management are the ones at fault there. This is why, like, if you watch a football team and the team's doing shit, they blame the manager because the manager is in charge of that. The manager needs to have accountability. So sergeants, to an extent, but sergeants have to answer to the inspectors. Sergeants have to deal with and work with what they have. And if the bosses don't put out for the overtime, if they know they're short-staffed, or they don't find cops from elsewhere to support when needed, or they just basically say, well, it'll make me look worse if this job and this job doesn't get resourced, rather than closing down bullshit jobs and keeping the resources open for jobs which really need numbers and need the cops. It's just not going to work, is it? So bosses need to be held more account, and it's not fair that it all comes down to the individual officers who do absolutely their fucking best every single pissing day, and the sergeants who essentially have they're trying to build a jigsaw with missing pieces and trying to make it work as best they can half the time. So yeah, massive problem there, massive problem. But you know what? A full admiration for anyone who does not just the police, but emergency service work in general, because it's bleeding hard work. So a little bit more light-hearted here. So I thought, you know what? Why don't we talk about some pranks and some jokes on shift? And by all means, if you have done jokes or people that have done jokes to each other, then by all means, send it in. Send it in. I want to hear it, and I'm more than happy to read things out. Like I said, it can be anonymous. You can tell me your name. It's not an issue. I do not mind whatsoever. Just the story is what we want to hear. And plus, people sending in stories as well. People listen to this, emergency services workers, etc. They listen to this, or if you're a teacher or whatever, you listen to this and you're like, you know what? It's not just me. There are other people out there. And one thing I really like is, when you're younger and you think, oh, adults have got everything sorted, and adults know what they're doing, and adults have got it all figured out. And certainly police officers and nurses and everything else think, oh, they're all so serious and know exactly what they're doing. Well, actually, when you step into that world, we're all just big kids, aren't we? Sure, you get the odd miserable bastard here and there, but generally we're all just big kids, and frankly, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So this happened to me actually, and I'm still angry at it. And the cops involved will know who they are when when I tell this story. So we went to an outstation. It was like a Wednesday night or something like that. There's nothing going on. So we went to an outstation. We were just sitting, chilling, talking. The radio was pretty cute. And I went to the loo. So I took off my stab vest and went to the loo. And then I came back and I looked at my stab vest and I went, where's my gear? And my radio had gone, my cuffs, my leg straps, my leg restraints, me parva, me baton, the lot. It would just like, it'd been my notebook, it'd been ransacked. And I was only in the toilet for like a minute, so they moved quick. They must have been waiting, ready. So basically, as soon as I stood up and walked away, they'd have looked at each other. So it was my tutor at the time, and another colleague who's still a very good friend, bastard. So they'd have turned around and gone, come on, let's hide all this gear. So what they've done is they've stripped my fucking thing, they stripped everything bare. They've stripped everything bare, and then they've just decided to hide it everywhere. So like my warrant card was in the fridge, my baton was under a chair, like under a table, my cuffs were locked in a drawer, my radio, like they were issying me, so they were radioing me, like based at Marco Polo to try and find where my fucking radio was. Absolute arseholes. So naturally, when I then did that to other people as well, and it was really, really funny. Some might say it was bullying. I would say it's character building. But thankfully, there was no like serious incident that came in. Like, oh, PC, where are you? Yeah, I'm currently trying to find my fucking radio. Sorry, because they've hidden it. Yeah, they've gone. They're on the way to the incident. I'm stranded here, not knowing where all my stuff is. But one I really used to like doing, one little prank what we used to play, and everyone did it to each other, was again if it was a bit of a quiet shift. Normally on night shifts, it's just when the deliriousness comes out, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning and everyone's just running on fumes, everyone's caffeinated to their bloody eyeballs, no one's had any sleep because it's summer, so you're absolutely goosed and dying, and you know everyone's knackered. And what would happen is like you'd meet up in like a car park or something, have a Mackey's or a brew or something like that. And then when you're leaving, you'd get out the car, you'd ask them to wind the window down, get out the car. And then you'd wind the window down and you'd pull the keys out the ignition and throw it, throw them somewhere. Thankfully, they never end up down a grid, but they'd just be like, you'd pick it out, you'd take it out and throw it, and then you'd just say, oh, you arsehole, stuff like that. And then when they'd be going getting the keys, you'd then like open all the doors and move all the mirrors and everything else, and you'd drive off, and it'd be dead funny. Yeah. And that happened to me quite a few times, and I also partook in it quite a few times too. So yeah. There was one lad actually who a new guy started, and the newbies always get it. And what he did was it was like a few weeks in, the guy wasn't too fresh, a few weeks in, and he walked into briefing one day, and he was like, I can't find my stuff, where's my locker? And this guy was laughing his arse off. And the sergeant clocked him and said, where's his stuff? And he said, I'm not saying this is the case, but his locker may or may not be in the back of a carrier and may or may not be at another police station. So what they'd done is about 3 of them had lifted his locker, stuck it in the back of a van, and then driven it like 20 miles down the road to another station. Yeah, that made for a fun morning, put it that way. But yeah. I think, guys, for the first episode, I think we're nearly done. Just a quick one. Auditors. We all don't like them. They're all a bunch of bellends. But there's actually things that you can do about auditors. Remember, auditors are there to antagonise you, and auditors are there to make you challenge them. Because if you challenge them, then they get content for their YouTube channels or their social media, which then means that, you know, they carry on doing it because then they get views and they get money and everything else. So a way to deal with auditors is either ignore them like a bad smell, you know, eventually they'll go away. Or if they actually... There's knowing the law around it as well, so if they're just in the public place on the road filming, then there's actually nothing you can do about it. Yeah, go out and challenge them and they'll say, oh, identify yourself. Can you identify yourself, please? And all this lot. And you go, yeah, I'm PC, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just filming. I've got the right to do it. Okay, have a nice day. And literally just fucking walk off. Just say, all right, just don't go in the car park, whatever, you know, be respectful. Please don't film people walking in and out. They'll do what they want ultimately. But they want you to tell them to move on, and they want you to tell them the name and all the rest of it. One thing I have seen is people playing music, officers playing music, so that their clips and videos get copyright striked, so they don't make money off them, so then they can't use it, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I never thought of that. I only saw that recently. But if they do go into if they like start to trespass, they'll say, oh, trespass is a civil matter. I say, yes, it is, but aggravated trespass is not. I actually did a video on this, and I got loads of shit from auditors for it, and it was amazing. So if an auditor walks in to a like private car park or something and is trespassing, if you then have to go out and challenge them, it then becomes an aggravated trespass, because them trespassing is actually interfering with what you're doing, is interfering with your work, so they can be locked up for that. And if you Google aggravated trespass, there was a case in Northwich where a lad who was an auditor got locked up for that very reason, and I think got like a 5-year criminal behaviour order as well. Like the courts proper slammed him. So they don't slam people for more severe things, do they? But anyway, that's a complete different episode talking about the courts. Do not get me started on that. But yeah, all right, guys, it's been amazing. Really enjoyed this. If you like this kind of stuff, remember to send in your stuff, send in your messages, send in your content, send in your funny stories, your terrible stories, you know, send in your rants, all the rest of it. Want to hear it? Send it to either me on Instagram, where I'm most active on Instagram, @jdarkmore, or drop me an email, jdarkmore@gmail.com. So, amazing, loved it, have a great day, and yeah, be sure to tell people about this podcast, people in emergency services, people who just want to, you know, have a bit of relatability, or people that just want to laugh, people that want to have a bit of a moan. By all means, follow and yeah, subscribe for more. Right, love you, pleasure, speak to you later.